We're just shooting the shit. I thought you.
Hello and welcome to the Parapals podcast. My name's Noah Friedman. I'm here with.
Oh wait, stop! Because I was talking, so now do it again, so the cut's clear.
I'm here with the lovely Kylie Schultz, who thinks she can boss me around. Kylie has recently gained somewhat recognition. Is that the right word? Fame, kind of, for
awareness?
Looking like awareness.
Not looking. Well, kind of looking, but I don't fully.
Kylie is a Britney Spears impersonator.
No, I am
Can you
not.
tell us a little bit about that?
That is not what I do. I make videos in the style of the choreography from Brian Friedman, who is her choreographer, on my TikTok platform.
You said Brian Friedman?
Yes, I did. Are you related?
I should look into that.
You should look into that and then let me know.
Okay.
Because that would be really cool. He was like he still is a very, very famous choreographer for like all pop artists, but especially in like the early 2000s. And, you know, as a dancer, that is like something I really, really admire. So I just recreate the choreography and put it on my account along with like some of my singing videos and my acting content. And altogether, people have started like creating a community to bring awareness to me possibly getting recognition, to get an audition for the Britney Spears biopic movie that's coming out because of all those factors and the aura that I apparently have.
The aura that you have. Can you delve into that a little bit more?
I think a lot of the comments, one of the biggest things I get is that I have her aura. Because I think it's very clear I don't look exactly like her. I wish I did. I do not. But the aura, the personality, the charisma.
How would you describe Britney Spears' aura? Because we were just talking before we started recording. Kylie doesn't think she has Valley Girl energy. But when I think
Britney Spears does not have Valley Girl energy. Britney Spears is from the South.
That's debatable.
She's from the South. She's a Southern girl.
She is a Southern girl.
Yes. She grew up like playing in the woods with her. She has an older brother, a little sister, very country, just, you know, things that I also feel like I had those experiences growing up in like the middle of the woods in Pennsylvania. Have you ever read her book?
No, I haven't.
You
What's
should
her
read
book
her
called?
book. The Woman in Me. It is amazing.
Okay.
It is all about her life and kind of just giving the platform for her to share her narrative to things that the press has time and time again like just twisted and manipulated to make this girl seem like she's something she's not,
and make people like me believe that she's a Valley Girl when in reality she's actually a Southern girl.
She's a Southern girl that came to Hollywood, and she gave so much to the community and unfortunately just got a shitty hand dealt back. And you know, she went through the conservatorship with her father for like 13 years and was mentally abused for that whole time and got everything taken away from her, including her children. And it was just the most awful thing ever. And again, the press kind of manipulated that to be that she was on drugs or that she was an unfit mother. And this book, you really have to read it. It's so empowering for women and kind of finding that within yourself and not others. So the whole thing is just about also how people are obsessed with her being like this little girl, and that's the sexuality within that. A lot of people sexualize her because she was like this little girl. It's very weird, but now it's finally that she gets to be that woman. Read it. It's very great.
Okay, The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. We're not sponsored.
We should be.
We should be. But we're not here to talk about Britney Spears. We're here for another reason. This
is a weird segue.
That Kylie is an interesting person is not only does she embody the aura of Britney Spears, she also has self-proclaimed, how would you describe it, psychic abilities?
This is great. I've had spiritual moments.
Spiritual moments. Okay.
Yeah.
So not psychic abilities. You couldn't like flip the pages of this notebook with your mind?
No, but I wish I could. That would be the coolest thing
I can do that.
Okay, go ahead. Are you suddenly going to write all the talking
We're here to talk about
now?
you. So your spiritual moments. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I would say, you know, spiritual moments.
Okay. Can you talk about that?
Okay, sure. I guess ever since I was a kid, I just kind of grew up in an environment where it was open and encouraged that, you know, if spooky things happen, it's because they are real and not that they don't exist. And because of that, I kind of always grew up accepting that there's more out there than just, black and white, and that there's also that gray zone. And I always just learned to trust and follow my intuition. So are you fake writing this down?
Don't worry about what I'm doing. Keep talking about what you're doing.
Are you so bored right now that you're pretending?
You were talking about spooky things?
Basically, just with trusting that intuition and those feelings, I was able to really experience. You're distracting me so much right now.
Look at the camera.
Really experience a lot of things that maybe a lot of other people haven't experienced, or maybe a lot of other people don't believe or shut themselves off to experiencing. But overall, I think it's really important, and it's something that's made me who I am today. So yeah.
Okay, so when you say spooky things, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely feel like in terms of, I don't know if I'd call them ghosts, but like energies, I can definitely sense those. I feel like I can feel very like empathetic towards all of that. You're kind of able to sense good, bad, the in-between, just like maybe that feeling that there's eyes on you, where in the room it's coming from. Maybe you're not alone and you don't understand why you feel that way, or just a heightened sense of like my emotions. And yeah, I've also had some other spooky like things happen, but we can get into that, I guess, later. I don't know what direction you want to take that in, but
okay, so I kind of want to go in the spooky direction. And the notes I'm taking, I don't know how well the camera can. This is kind of what I imagine Kylie being in tune with. Are there any of these in the room with us right now?
I don't believe so.
She doesn't feel any.
I don't. But it's also what I've learned is at least there were points in my life where I leaned into that, and I found that there's specific ways to treat your body and your abilities and things like that to help kind of open yourself up, like the way you eat, what you put in your body, like how you're treating your body. Some people like to talk about like your third eye and believe that is like the connection, the portal to the other world, or whatever you would want to refer to it as. But I find that when I'm able to really be within my mind, my body, my spirit, and like kind of just center myself and take care of my body and find that connection, that it comes much stronger. So like obviously I've been chugging coffees every day, and
I was gonna say we got some what was the name of this?
We're not sponsored.
She ordered it. We're not sponsored by Starbucks, but we did get
this is salted caramel cold brew. People are gonna get mad at me for calling it caramel and not caramel, but
it's really good. Does this help open your third eye?
No, I don't believe so. Maybe like a little bit, but I drink a coffee like every single day. Also working 9 to 5, just like very stressed and not being able to be as in tune with myself. But what do you do? Do you feel like you are within that space, or do you feel like there's maybe more to work on to get there?
I am a big fan of meditation. I try and meditate.
That's a big one.
Every night, at least 10 to 20 minutes. But I don't do it so much for the psychic abilities of it. I'm not really sure how much of that I truly believe in. I do it more so for my judgment and things like confidence and level-headedness and stress management, so that when I encounter a stressful situation, I have a better way of dealing with it than if my mind was racing at the end of every day.
So
for me, it's really like a mental reset. Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you do that, when you get to that space and you're closing your eyes and you find that you're like kind of in this sort of energy, what do you see when you close your eyes?
I don't really see anything when I close my eyes. I mean, a little bit. We've got lights in the studio here, so I kind of see like the imprints of those and maybe some light colors. But I do those YouTube guided meditations, so sometimes they'll be like, imagine you're walking through a beautiful forest and there's a rainbow and then there's a waterfall. And I can kind of visualize those, but I don't see them with my eyes. It's like an imagination.
Have you ever done those sort of meditations when then at the end it tells you like what all of your answers meant? Where it's like you're walking and then you stumble upon this house. What does it look like? And then at the end it'll be like, if your house is big, it means that you feel this void and this. I don't know.
Ooh, I've not done any of those. Have you?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Like maybe you're like on a trail and you stumble you stumble and you trip on something. It's like, what do you trip on? I don't know. There's things like that, but they're really...
So you're saying that basically your subconscious is projecting, sort of like the way that people interpret dreams, or if you have a dream that like your teeth are falling out, that means that change is coming. Or
I've never had one of those dreams.
I haven't
ever.
either. I guess change is not coming for me anytime soon. Or maybe just because I brush my teeth every day.
That's a good thing.
But do you attribute that to something more scientific, like, yeah, it's just your subconscious telling you something that your conscious mind doesn't want? Or do you think it's messages from a higher power?
Those specific instances, like
Right.
that story, I think that specific is like psychology. That's science. Because it's like all about analyzing what those things mean and associating each thing with a specific sort of I don't know, diagnosis or whatever.
Diagnosis. I had a dream last night, a nightmare last night, actually. It was pretty scary, that I was getting wrapped up by a giant anaconda.
What?
And it was just
Was
squeezing
it
me.
you? I told you that story. I think that's my fault.
The story? What story did you
We
tell
were at
me?
Universal, and I was telling you about how when I was little, I would fall asleep to TV shows, but wake up with them still on, and it would at the middle of the night. So I've had so many people actually probably also have this experience, because for some reason, once it hits like midnight to like 6 a.m., weird shit starts. Can I curse on this?
Oh, yeah.
Weird shit starts to play. And I would like fall asleep to like Friends or something, and then wake up and it's like these. It was I will literally never forget. It was, I told you this. It was like a TV show that like told real stories about scary stuff, I guess. And it was the kids in. Oh my gosh.
I remember now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a child in Africa that was playing with his sister, and an anaconda or something along those lines like showed up, and then the kids were trying to climb the tree to escape it, and the snake started going up the tree and like ate both kids whole.
That's very interesting, because I don't, until she just mentioned it, I didn't remember her telling me that story, because that was probably like last week.
That was, we were at Universal.
But just last night I had that dream that I was the one getting eaten by a giant anaconda. So somewhere deep in my subconscious mind, I internalized that story that Kylie told me about those kids, and I guess it imprinted itself on. So it's very fascinating how the subconscious works.
Yeah, what do you think that means?
That I should not go on safari in Africa anytime soon, or no trips to the rainforest
Should we go
in
back
my
to
near
the spooky
future.
stuff?
Yeah, so tell me about you. Tell me about the house you grew up in, because we've talked about this. You had some paranormal experiences. You believed your house was haunted. Is that right?
Yeah, so my parents are divorced, so I grew up in two different households, and my primary caretaker is my mother, so I always grew up within this farmhouse. It was my stepdad. She met my stepdad when I was really young, so we always grew up in that house, and that house has been passed down in our family since the 1930s, when his great grandfather or whoever it was built it. So like his family built it from scratch, this farmhouse, and it's been passed down. It was like his wedding gift from his grandmother or something like that. It's a beautiful home, but we were doing renovations on it when we were little, to the point where, like, this is how old it is. We were digging the backyard to add like a whole addition to the back of our home, and we were finding old milk bottles, perfume bottles, things from like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, because I guess that's what they used to do with all their glass. They would bury it. So we were finding like the containers and containers full of like all of these old like bottles with dates on them, brands on them, and we kept them all. They're really, really cool, but it's an old home. When we first moved in, I don't think maybe the family approved, the family that's passed, because we had family photos that we were putting up, things like that, you know, when it's like on the stand and it has like the back part, and we would all go to sleep, and my mom would wake up in the morning and the photos were turned around and face down, and she always thought it was me, and I was 3 or 4 and it couldn't even reach any of that. So that would happen every single night when we first moved in for probably the first few months. And my mom and my stepdad do not believe in these things. So like the reason I feel like I have believed in it so much is because my dad, my father, believes in it so much to the point where it's like he's like a geek about it. But that was always reinforcing this behavior, whereas like with my mom and my stepdad, they were always shutting it down because I think genuinely like they're scared of it. Also, moving into this home, it was so apparent that it was, especially before the addition was built. I had a different bedroom, and my parents were sleeping in what was the master bedroom at the time. I eventually moved in there, and that became my room. But that bedroom is so haunted. And when I say haunted, I'm not talking about like bad or scary. Like, I felt safe. It's just that I knew something was there. And there are stories where I would be sleeping and I have like I have a rack that has all my guitars hanging from the ceiling, and like 3-4 in the morning the strings are actually plucking, and it's across the room, and it would wake me up. And that being said, like at this point when I did live in that space, my whole other family was now sleeping. Their bedrooms were in the addition, which was all the way on the like very far part of the house, so it's not like anybody was around. I had this whole old part of the house to myself. Things where also the room that was adjacent to this bedroom, we use it now for like crafts and whatnot, but you walk in there and you're just like, you just feel scared. Like it is, you can feel like from this specific corner, like something is there. Like there's just this energy. You constantly feel like you're being watched. And I think the fact that shares a wall with my bedroom, and where like these guitars were being plucked and things like that, always really scary. Plus I always grew up with a lot of dogs. Dogs know shit. They sense shit. So you always know it's kind of weird when your dog starts to act really weird and tweak and freak out, start barking at things. And again, like my whole family shut it down over and over. But I've had doors like just shut, things like that. Doorknobs jiggle. I had an old static TV when I was younger that would just turn off and turn back on. I remember I was sleeping. Well, I was trying to sleep and I was laying down, and I was just saying like, oh my God, like this TV, the static's creeping me out. I wish it would just turn off. And it turned off.
Ooh.
I was younger, so like I don't usually tell that one that often because people are like, oh, you were a little kid, you probably made it up. But I didn't. But yeah, things like that happen a lot. And then my dad, when I would go visit him, he always stayed at a few different places. But there was this one specific very old farmhouse, probably from like the 1800s. And that was scary. Like I was scared to be there. That was not good energy. And that was probably like the most scariest place I ever had to be. Just because.
Why was there something in particular about it? Or was it just a bad energy? I
will never forget the feeling of the kitchen. Like sitting in the living room, you can see kind of where the kitchen was, like the door, it's the doorway. And you just felt like it's just like soul sucking. And my dad would always say like the blinds would suddenly shift open and shut, like, you know, like the ones where you have to twist them. I wasn't touching that shit. Like spooky stuff. Like you could hear footsteps from upstairs. Nobody's upstairs. It was just the feelings that I got from that specific house. Like I was scared to go to sleep sometimes.
Now, did you ever have friends come over and visit that house or anything like that?
No.
Was there anybody else who came over who described similar feelings about the kitchen or about that house? I don't know.
How
did your dad feel about it?
Oh my God, my dad, it's hard with him because he wants everything to be haunted. He would literally like start like talking to things, like he would be like, is anybody here? Like he's trying to stir up some shit. And then obviously I think with me being younger and just a little bit more like open, and because obviously, you know, like kids do sense things, and at this time I was probably like 10 or 11, so I wasn't little, but it definitely was something that I was very aware. And it just spooked me out so much. Like things would slam. Like I don't necessarily know that it was like anything that's like demonic or whatever you want to call it like that. But just like it was not welcoming is the word.
You told me, or excuse me, I told you this story. You said, and I quote, "Dogs know shit." I wrote that down.
Next to the ghost.
On the other page, actually.
Oh, okay.
The ghost it's still here, folks.
Okay, no, I love to hear this.
I dog sat for this family last summer. There were 2 dogs, really nice dogs. And the house it wasn't like in the middle of nowhere, but it was pretty secluded. And there was kind of this forest, like,
It's always
in the back.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it like this never happens in like a
Where
suburb.
like if you needed to like run away, there's nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And it was like a week that I was dog sitting, and I stayed at the place. So the house just, I mean, it gave me a bad vibe. I know you're talking about where you walk in and it just kind of feels like the hair on the back of your neck stands up a little bit.
Yeah.
There was this door in the kitchen that led out to the garage that was locked. I never saw the inside of the garage, but the dogs would stand like on guard, both of them, and just like growl at that door and bark at it. And that was really creepy. There were no windows in there, so I couldn't see what was in there. But I kind of just wrote that off. Oh, maybe there's a squirrel in there or some other rodent that like they can hear that I can't. Whatever. So downstairs, the downstairs kind of basement area on the ground floor, that's where the room that I was staying in was. And that room had another door in it that led to a giant walk-in closet. And I really felt like there was something bad in there. Like you could open it.
That ghost didn't want you touching her shoes. I would do the
guess
same.
not. And you could go in there, and as soon as I walked in there, I was like, I shouldn't be in here. I closed the door, whatever. And I had to sleep in that room with the door
had to sleep in the walk-in
right there.
closet?
No, not in the walk-in
Oh,
closet,
okay.
but in the room with the door that led to the walk-in
Okay,
closet. And I kept
okay.
it shut, and I made sure to keep it shut. And I would wake up, and it would be open. And that really creeped me out because
Yeah.
dogs can't open doors. Last I checked, maybe really, really smart dogs, but those dogs, they weren't the smartest. So, yeah, that was creepy.
Did you ever see shadows?
I never saw anything. It was
Okay.
just a bad feeling. And the other thing that happened was the door to the outside that was also on the basement level. I made sure to lock it every night. I'm very like uptight about that stuff. And I would wake up and it would be unlocked and
That's
creaked
scary.
open a little bit. And that
So like
really
the home,
scared me.
like the outside.
Yes, from the outside.
Oh God, they were trying to set you up.
Set me up.
The ghosts for like somebody to come in,
I guess so. Or
attack you.
the ghost came in and wanted to
Wanted
pet the
them.
dogs or something. I don't know. But the dogs would get up in the middle of the night and start barking at things. They would get up and start running around. It was a very creepy vibe.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to stay in that house if it weren't for the company of those 2 dogs.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that they were seeing something or sensing something that I wasn't able to.
Yeah. Well, you know they say that if you do have psychic abilities, or if you are just like able to have these feelings, there's like categories. Do you know about these categories?
No, I don't. Can you explain it?
Okay, this is gonna be really bad because it's been a really long time since I don't remember the words, kind of, because they're like clairvoyance or so
Oh,
that's
okay.
basically, it's like the ability of hearing, seeing, feeling something else. There's 4 of them and I don't remember.
Smelling.
No,
It's like the
but-
5 senses.
Yeah, no, but you do know what they say about smelling, right?
No, what do they say about smelling? If you smell burnt toast, you're having a stroke?
No, there's a very common story that you'll smell like rotten eggs if there's like a demon around.
Oh dear.
Yeah. I've never had that experience, and I really hope I don't ever have
let's
that.
not manifest
But that's
that.
like a common thing where people smell like rotten eggs, like garbage, and they don't understand why. And that it's not coming from anywhere.
Because those demons
except
haven't
that
been
it was
taking their
coming.
showers.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But do you feel like you fit in one of those 4 categories? Like,
So what were the categories again?
seeing, hearing, feeling, and usually one's like strong. It's like sometimes people can do all of it. Like when you think of like a psychic, it's like somebody like, oh, like they can talk to your grandmother or something like that, and it's like it's more. Yeah, people consider like if you can do this one specific thing, it's like your specialty. But like in actuality, you can tap into like all of them. But like, do you think there's one that like comes more naturally to you when you're having these experiences?
I would have to say feeling. I've never, at least that I can think, I've never really seen or heard anything, except for maybe minor bits of sleep paralysis. But that's a totally different thing that hasn't happened to me since I was a very young kid. But I think this is part of the reason that I'm a little skeptical about the whole psychic thing, because anybody can say that they feel a bad presence or convince themselves that they feel a bad presence if they think hard enough about it or if they want to believe it. But seeing or hearing is something very different. And just because I've personally never experienced either of those, I'm a little more skeptical. But what about you, Kylie?
I would say it definitely goes hand in hand, because I definitely like am more of a visual person. I've seen a lot of things. And again, this isn't like I walk down the street and I'm like, oh, look, it's Johnny the ghost, right? Like that. It's not like that. But within my mind, I see a lot of things. So when I close my eyes, I never see darkness. I see strangers that I've never seen before. I see like colors. I see objects. I get like transported into places that I don't recognize. And it wasn't until I started like, and I kind of told you the story a while ago, when I was kind of just like goofing off with some friends and like playing psychic or whatever, that once I started like going along with what those visuals were and just kind of like shooting my shit, let's say, that I found out that these were like real things, and that scared the hell out of me. But with that came all the emotions and the feelings. Yeah,
would you mind sharing that story? That story, like, it freaked me out when she told me.
It's a long story. Do we have time?
Oh, we've got plenty of time.
Okay. So I was in high school. It was like my freshman year. And again, this is like I was living in this house also like in this house that I lived in with my mom and my stepdad. It got to a point too where like I would see shadows crossing walls and things like that. That creeped me out a lot. But like, again, so I knew that there were these things that were happening, but I didn't necessarily know that it could be within my mind as well. I feel like I sound psychotic talking about this. You have so many therapists that reach out to you and they're like, give this girl my number. You're gonna get a therapist sponsorship.
Oh, that would be nice.
Guys, sponsor. No, so yeah, high school freshman year, I was really, really good friends with this one girl like my whole life. We can call her Sarah. And Sarah also had a new friend called Becky. We'll call her Becky. This is going to get confusing because I'm going to forget the fake names.
Sarah and Becky.
Sarah and Becky. And so, yes, I had known Sarah almost my whole life. Family vacations, all of this stuff. Like, we were very, very close. Becky was more new to the relationship, but like Sarah loved Becky and I really wanted to love Becky too. So we all decided to do a sleepover and just hang out for the first time. Sarah and Becky were like getting pretty close too. So like they knew each other pretty well. So this was kind of just like bridging that gap and, so we can all hang out and whatever. And I remember, and I think this is where the meditation kicks in, because I remember we just got to a point where we were getting like really bored in the night. And it was also still kind of awkward because it was trying to find like how can we get closer. It was just a bit odd. And I remember laying on her bed. I was laying on Becky's bed. We were at Becky's house. Yeah, making sure that's the right friend I'm trying to talk about. Laying on Becky's bed, looking at her ceiling fan. Right, it's just like going off, and I just zoned out in it. And I probably was zoned out in the ceiling fan for about like 5 minutes or so. I felt so zen afterwards. Like, it was crazy. And Sarah was like, oh, we should just like do something fun, like let's just like joke around or something. We were like, oh, like spooky stories, yada yada. And so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do something spooky. And we were like, oh, what about like a palm reading, like yada, like just like shooting our shit. And so we go to the floor, and also candle work. That was something that I had been like kind of doing a lot. Candle work is something like you can utilize with like meditation, things like that, like staring at the flame, visualizing it, kind of putting your energy into it to see if it can grow or, get short or go either way. Again, like I was just a bored kid, like trying to have fun. I don't know if any of that was necessarily real, but I was like, oh, let's make this really spooky. Bring in the candles, yada, yada, like just like the most dramatic. I was trying to be dramatic. I was a huge theater kid. And so we're sitting there, we have the candle, I'm holding her hands, and I'm kind of just like really trying to get within my headspace, connect, and focus on the energy also coming off the candle. And it takes a few seconds for like we're tuning in up here, and suddenly some images start coming to my head. Pretty normal. That's kind of just like how my whole life has always been, not thinking it was strange or anything. But I had no other material, so I was going to go with it. And so I start describing this man I see. I have no idea who this person was. I've never seen this man ever before. But you know what they say when they're like, oh, like you actually see people all day long and you just like don't know. And sometimes like that's just what circles back because your brain like subconsciously like keeps that all in memory. So I've always thought like, oh, like this isn't, you know, anything too different. It's just somebody I don't recognize. So I'm describing this man, all this stuff, and then we discussed too within the friend group, like we were not going to say anything, we weren't going to stop each other, like if anything were to be real, we weren't going to say it. So I'm describing this man, and I could see all of his features, his dark hair, the texture of his hair, the texture of his skin, what color his skin was, how he was standing, the aura of who he was as a person. He was, I guess I could talk about this because we don't even know who I'm talking about. Yeah, so he was just like this big, strong guy. He had this like black, kind of curly hair-ish, and he just gave like a biker vibe. Like he was tall, dark, and handsome. Like there was no other way to put it. And he comes in the door, and you can tell like he's been drinking. He's like slamming doors, all of these things. It was like just like a very unsettling feeling. And he comes in and he walks into the kitchen. I could see the details of this home. I'm describing it. And there's this woman who is a bit older. She's very pregnant. She's washing dishes. And you can tell like she's just exhausted. Like she's been going through some stuff. And he comes in and immediately starts picking a fight with her. He's really drunk. Like things were just not going well. It was like a really just scary feeling overall. But you can tell this was something that probably seemed normal, like something that they had been experiencing a lot. And then there was this little girl sitting on the steps to the kitchen, because the steps to go upstairs kind of like you can see the kitchen through it, and she's kind of just watching. And she probably had to be like, I don't know, like 5 or 6, something like that. She was young. But all the details of what this little girl looked like, and basically the guy grabs all of his stuff, like by all of his stuff I mean like a coat and like a bag and like a few things, and just left. Like he was leaving. I don't know if he was leaving the family. I don't think that was necessarily like the feeling of it, but he needed to get out. You can tell like he's been really distant, and like with obviously I think the pregnancy, like obviously he was the father, so it was just like a lot of things that were not going well, especially with how far along this woman was. He leaves, he goes to this house. It was this little like suburban home, white picket, like a tiny white picket fence. They have like all these flowers out front, like it's just a little tiny garden, and it was like this like gravel driveway, and it was just this very, very cutesy little older home. And he goes in, and it's like it's his father's home. Like I just knew like it was his parents' home, like he was going back to see his father. And he went there and he grabbed something from his dad's house. I don't remember what it was, but he was gonna leave. And so he gets on his motorcycle, and him and his dad are now fighting because the dad doesn't want him driving drunk. And like it's an old man, because like probably in his like 60s or 70s. I say old, oh my god, if you're 60 or 70, don't think that's what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying in comparison to these other people, much older guy. So the main guy gets on this motorcycle, he's like revving the engine, all this stuff, and he takes off, and it's dark now, and he is speeding down these streets. And I recognized the one street because it looked like a street that was in my hometown. And like suddenly, it's like as all this is happening to my body, I'm just like rocking back and forth. I'm so consumed in my head. I'm crying because every single emotion that was happening, I felt it times 1,000. And that was extremely scary for myself. Like it was a very I think it really scared my friends too. Like it was something, I felt like I had been like possessed almost. It was very like I couldn't really control it at this point. Everything was just kind of happening. But this guy is on this motorcycle, and he's speeding on this highway, and it's dark, and suddenly he lost control and went right into a telephone pole. And in that moment, it was kind of like everything just stopped. And I said it. and it's like, this was the first time I met this girl. This is not something you just say to somebody. It felt very out of pocket to talk about this or say that this thing happened, especially when we were just like shooting our shit, and like it just escalated so much, and I felt like I had to. And at that point, it all just went away. I didn't see anything anymore. I like opened my eyes, and she's sobbing. And her and the other friend are just looking at each other, so scared, because that little girl on those stairs was that friend, Becky, who I just met. And that was her mom and her mom's boyfriend at the time. And that was her mom pregnant with her little brother, who was literally just sitting downstairs from us, like, at that time. And my friend Sarah knew. And obviously Becky knew. So they're just looking at each other, and they were so scared because they never told anybody. Like, I think Sarah had either just known or just found out or something. Like, nobody knew all the details. Like, Sarah knew that, like, Becky said that something like this had happened to her, like, once upon a time, but it wasn't like, this is the whole story. And it was just, at that point, we all just sat in silence for a really long time, because it was really intense, and it brought up so many things. And yeah, long story.
Spooky.
Very spooky.
So, yeah, I don't even know where to begin with that. Did it almost feel like something else was trying to speak through you as you were talking about it?
No.
Or like something else was showing you those visions?
Yeah, it definitely, I think the biggest learning lesson from that was the validation in the things that I saw, because growing up I always thought that seeing these random things in my head, it was normal. And I think in that moment, knowing that it wasn't normal and that it meant something really just opened the door for a lot of other sort of experiences. But I think the biggest thing I've learned from it is that I'm able, when I take care of myself and want to, I could potentially connect with people that have passed and kind of be able to share their stories and their side of things. And maybe, you always hear that your loved ones are on the other side thinking of you and connected to you. And, I never know what's going to come up or who's going to come up. And of course, I never even knew this guy. I didn't even know he existed. I just met this girl. But yet, like, out of all the things I could have seen, like, it was him. It wasn't like a grandfather or a grandmother. It was him. So I think it just shows that, like, not necessarily something speaking through me, but, what somebody maybe needs to hear or, like, needs to know, like, maybe just needs to know that, like, the person that passed is thinking of them. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I wish we had more time.
Yeah. I said it was a long story.
Well, this last, like, how long we've been going? 40 or 50 minutes? It really feels like it flew by.
I don't know.
Do you want to shout out your TikTok?
Oh my gosh. What a switch up. Yeah, let me pull it up. So my TikTok is at Kylie on Set. I'm right now at 58.5K followers, which is crazy because probably just a few months ago I was only at like 20K. And I think just being here in LA with my friends and a community of people that love art and love dancing and performing has just really strengthened that relationship online. So make sure to follow me if you love performing or dancing or Britney Spears. And if you're John M. Chu, you should definitely reach out to me because I really want to be in your movie or part of your movie in any way possible.
And will you do me a favor? Will you stand up and turn around and show everybody this shirt that you just got today?
Oh my God, yes. So RCA Records, Britney's record label towards 2000 to like the end of her music making career. It's not over, but it's been on pause. I hope it's not over. They reached out to me to send me some merch. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if I stand up, are you going to see it?
Yeah. Get your hair out of the way.
I'm trying. I don't know if you can. You kind of can now.
That's pretty cool.
So cool.
For those of you listening and not watching, it's like a bunch of photos of Britney's. That's her first album, right?
It wasn't like an album photo shoot, but it was just like a photo shoot done. I have to figure out. I think it was done for like probably some sort of like magazine or something, and I just don't remember right now. But yeah, she's a baby, so
It's a sweet T-shirt. I wish I had
super
one.
cool. Yeah, you should reach out.
Well, we'll have to get you back next week, Kylie. This has been fun.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you for listening to the Parapals podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Have you had a paranormal experience? Reach out and let us know, and maybe we'll talk about it. And until next time, I'm Noah Friedman. And
Kylie Schultz. Kylie on set.
Kylie on set. Thanks for watching.